Good morning. We're here on Friday in the nation's capital, or at least the suburbs, just right outside the nation's capital. Anyway, in the news, first we'll start off by reminding you that it is National Donut Day. So get a chance to go down to Krispy Kreme if you're near one and get a free donut. If you're not near a Krispy Kreme, you can go over to Dunkin' Donuts, get a free donut with a purchase of any beverage. So it's not a bad deal. And enjoy a little bit of a treat to begin your day. Or even throughout the day, I guess. I think the Krispy Kreme thing is going to go on for all day. Anyway, the big news that has got the liberals in a tizzy is Trump's announcement yesterday afternoon that pulling the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Agreement, and that has them going absolutely bonkers. We were kind of expecting this over the last few days. There have been several hints to this effect, and this also keeps a Trump campaign promise that he was going to do that. And this is a thing that this agreement, Obama signed off on this in 2015, but it was never presented to the U.S. Senate as it probably should have been as a treaty, because they didn't have the votes to pass it, which is a telling sign that there were not even enough Democrats that would have been able to help push this thing through. So anyway, as I said, liberals have gone crazy. Governor Jerry Brown out of California, railed against the president and said that we need decarbonization. I didn't know that even existed as a word or a term or whatever, but I guess it does. But then again, we're talking Jerry Brown in California. Liberals can be somewhat hypocritical on this, especially those that are supporters of marijuana, because if you look at the cultivation and growth of marijuana, now that we've got legalization, throughout the country, is that it requires a lot of resources, a lot of water, fertilizer, and the grow lights, a lot of electricity. So that is not exactly; those things are not exactly carbon neutral, and for those that are pushing the whole green energy plan and things like that, this flies right in the face of that. Obviously, if you're growing marijuana, illegally, you're not going to be putting up a bunch of solar panels or a bunch of windmills, because you grow this, you do this very surreptitiously and secret. You get caught because you've been sloppy, or if you've got a greenhouse, all of a sudden if they watch this huge amount of electricity, you kind of get an idea of what's going on. You use a huge amount of water. So anyway, but the climate weatherchannel.com went all climate change on their page to troll Trump. Other liberals are trolling Trump. Hollywood obviously has come out, and a lot of actors have blasted Trump on this. Elon Musk of SpaceX, Tesla, Solar City fame, also very critical of that, as well as many others in Silicon Valley. But remember, they're tied to those that are tied to the industry, the whole idea of green energy. They have a lot to lose from this, because the U.S. staying in there and agreeing to all these kinds of restrictions on emissions and things like that, promote green energy, but then that costs the taxpayers a ton of money, because there isn't anything in the green energy sector that doesn't require some kind of government subsidy to survive. Solar panels would not be anywhere near as popular as they are right now if it wasn't for the fact that they are heavily subsidized by the government. I've got a friend who figured that with the tax credit and the relatively low interest rate and things like that, it wouldn't take him that long to really pay off, for the solar panels to pay off. And he pays a low month per month for that. He gets generally cheaper electricity as a result than he would by paying the local power company. But the math would not work without the tax credit, without the subsidy. And that goes pretty much across the board. Wind farms, they could not exist without government subsidies. So, that's usually left out of the equation when you're from the liberal left. They don't want to talk about the economics of that. They just, Obama promised all these green jobs, and we're still waiting. So I think that's kind of a telltale signal of the fact that green energy cannot survive, as a going concern, as a business, without giving the taxpayers, a hit on that. Switching gears a little bit here to Kathy Griffin. I didn't think I was necessarily going to be talking about her today. I thought she was becoming old news, but not quite yet. Al Franken has canceled a book event with her. He was going to promote a new book. And initially, he didn't back off, but I think the pressure just finally, made him realize that, it would not be good for him to have Kathy Griffin show up to promote a book on this, based on just the fact that she went way over the line. You have a First Amendment right to free speech and to do a lot of things, but as I've said before, the president, when you get to that degree, it's off limits. I don't care if it's a Democratic president, Republican president, whatever. What you did there, is uncalled for, and I can never condone that type of vicious, vile action against any president of the United States. But obviously, she didn't see it that way at first. But anyway, so Kathy Griffin is going to be holding a press conference. Her attorney is Lisa Bloom, daughter of Gloria Allred, and she's going to be basically claiming that the Trump family has bullied her. I'm sorry, you go out there and you say those things. I don't understand what you're talking about, being bullied by that. I mean, we had the big Jeopardy winner Ken Jennings, basically criticizing Barron Trump, and mocking him. I'm sorry. Once again, I thought the children were somewhat off limits, but apparently not to Ken Jennings, who's supposed to be a genius. Well, that's some genius, there for that. Anyway, so we have that. It's a little bit. It's not quite the same, but it's a little bit like. Now that she's trying to find another person to blame besides herself on this, for Griffin, that is a little bit like what Hillary Clinton has been doing, talking about at Codex 2017, or is it CodeCon, whatever, that all the list of excuses for why she lost has grown exponentially, so much so that even the liberal media, to some extent, is beginning to wonder, what the heck is going on with Hillary. So anyway, we'll see how that all kind of shakes out, in the end. And then finally, we have the Trump travel ban, which is the Fourth Circuit Court continues to throw up injunctions and say that it cannot go into force. The Trump administration is taking that to the Supreme Court, and so I think we'll get when the time comes, probably get anywhere, it'll be 5-4 to 7-2. 5-4 or 6-3 is really what I'm looking for more than anything else, because I do expect the Supreme Court to not be political about this at all, but to look at it strictly from a legal standpoint and say that, that this request for this temporary vetting of those coming in from select countries that are known sponsors of terrorism, yes, that is perfectly fine, and not politicizing it like the Fourth Circuit Court did, where they relied heavily on what candidate Trump said and not what President Trump has done, separating the two, and all of a sudden things that you say that have no legal bearing whatsoever on the campaign trail, and that's being held against him. Right then and there that the Fourth Circuit has turned this into a political issue, which is not their job. Anyway, have a great day. Go out to get your free donut, or your nearly free donut. I'm going to be heading off here shortly to Panera Bread, because they're going to give me a free bagel every day for the month of June. So I hope to rack up a few bagels along the way. Anyway, have a great day. Have a great weekend. We will see you on Monday.